Hare Krishna. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobisham Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadra Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Giram Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hare Krishna. Let's continue studying Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1. Pandavas retire timely. We are in verse 28. So in last session we saw how when Arjuna had returned back from Dwaraka, Yudhishthir Maharaj had welcomed him with a series of questions, and seeing the despondency in Arjuna's face, the disappointed look, the dejection, Yudhishthir Maharaj had asked those questions, and in response to that, Arjuna reveals the fact that Krishna had departed from this material world, away from the mundane vision. And then Arjuna, as he speaks to Yudhishthir Maharaj, he also remembers how in different instances Krishna had helped him from the time the Pandavas were born to the time they spent time in the Gurukula, and later on when Duryodhana was trying to kill them, how Krishna protected them, how Krishna protected Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, how he helped him win the hand of Mother Draupadi, how he helped him in the war against the Nivatakavachas, so on and so forth. That Supreme Lord who was the source of Arjuna's strength is no more. So Arjuna, after sharing all his heartfelt feelings, he then remembers the instructions of Krishna. This is a very important lesson for all of us, because normally when we study something, when we learn something, in normal times it becomes very easy to remember, talk about it, philosophize about it, and even to advise other people about it. But when it comes to application of knowledge, it becomes very, very difficult. So here we can see Arjuna, he took the instructions of the Supreme Lord to his heart, and then he is applying them, especially at the time of his maximum difficulty. So here you'll also see in one verse how Arjuna, he never forgot these instructions, not even once. Time didn't take away those instructions, nor did the situation, nor did any circumstance taken away those instructions away from the consciousness of Krishna. So it's important that we learn it once, we commit that in our memory, and we apply that knowledge in our day-to-day lives for rest of our life. So we saw till verse 27, where Arjuna says, I'm now attracted to Lord Govinda's instructions that relieve the burning heart in all circumstances, time and space. The relevance of Bhagavad Gita in our day-to-day lives is quite obvious. Anyone who has read Bhagavad Gita, anyone who has come across anything about Bhagavad Gita will find a lot of solace, will find a lot of enlightenment in it, especially at the time of difficulties. So here Arjuna is saying these instructions of Bhagavad Gita are capable of relieving the burning heart in all circumstances. And now Arjuna, the verse 28 says, Arjuna contemplated deeply on Lord Krishna's lotus feet and his instructions with great intimacy and friendship. When we hear the instructions of Gita, or if we are even sitting and listening in a class, one of the most important thing I was taught by my mentors is when you go and sit in a class, you need to have a certain relationship with the speaker. Now, you may have not come across that speaker ever in your life. The first time you are encountering, and that was you are one of the audience and you have a devotee who is a speaker. Still, it's possible to establish a certain relationship. We can establish that relationship as we are the humble servants and we have an elevated speaker there, so, who is given the seat of Vyasasana, seat of Vyasadeva. And we can now establish that relationship keeping Krishna in center, that I'm here to hear what Krishna has got to tell me through this devotee. With that friendly disposition, if we sit and listen to the class, every class will be interesting, every instruction will be penetrating to our heart, and every class will actually be a great source of our inspiration. On the other hand, if we get distracted by the externals, how nicely the devotee speaks, or how jovially the devotee speaks, how nicely the devotee quotes verses from his or her memory, they're all good. What's more important is our openness and our submissive consciousness. Prabhupada says that our Krishna consciousness is based on voluntary submission. Nobody is paying us to sit and attend the class. Nobody is even paying the teacher either to come and give the class. It's out of his or her own mercy they are giving. And based on our level of receptivity, we can go there and receive those instructions. But in order to make those instructions as effective in our lives as possible, we need to go with that level of openness, with that relationship. And that is, I'm this lost, fallen, conditioned soul, and Krishna here is sent this particular speaker to convey a message to me. So the speaker is more like a postman or postwoman. You simply sit and hear those instructions. When we do that, then the instructions will always remain fresh. Instructions will be interesting, and instructions will be very, very intellectually satisfying as well. It will be very, very convincing to our heart. So it's very important. So here, Arjuna is contemplating deeply on the instructions of Krishna, not just on the platform of the awe and reverence, but instead, it is said here with great intimacy and friendship. Sauhridanadigatena. Sauhridam. Sauhridanadigatena. With that level of intimacy and friendship, he is sitting and hearing. Just like sometimes you may have one of your best friends giving a class or speaking in some conglomeration. Because you have such an intimate relationship with your friend, whatever the friend says would actually go deeper to you. More important, you will relish every word that comes out of the mouth of your friend. So same way, here Krishna is the Supreme Lord, Arjuna is his student, and Arjuna is his best friend also. So Arjuna is hearing the instructions not just as, oh, I have to hear this, not in that mode, but more like that these are the words of my very best friend. Thus his mind became pacified and free from unsteadiness. Shanta Sid Vimalamatihi. So by hearing that, mind until that point was very disturbed, and mind has become very steady. Doing this way, by remembering Krishna, not by artificially trying to bring his image in his mind, but instead by remembering Krishna's instructions, he was able to meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna and intensify his bhakti. Very important. Many times we want to intensify, go deep in our bhakti. We don't know where to start. Arjuna here demonstrates what's the best way to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means to chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada mentions about this point in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Attaining the Supreme, how meditating on Krishna means to chant Hare Krishna, to hear about Krishna. in the form of holy name, in the form of Krishna Lila, in the form of Krishna Siksha. So in this way, simply by hearing Krishna, hearing about Krishna, hearing the instructions of Krishna, we can intensify our bhakti. He remembered the instructions which Krishna gave on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In this way, because of his spiritual assets here refers to his friendship with the Krishna or Krishna's friendship with him, Arjuna destroyed his lamentation, Vishoko Brahma Sampatya, and vanquished all doubts, Sanchina Dvaita Shamshayaha. So by remembering the instructions, by remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, Arjuna was able to dispel all the darkness of from within his heart, dispel all the doubts that he had from within his hearts. He then attained the transcendence, meaning now he is no longer being disturbed by the lower modes of shoka and moha, bhaya, no lamentation, no illusion, and no fear. And instead, he became devoid of the material form alingatvat and was no longer entangled in birth and death. In other words, simply by remembering Krishna's instruction, Nashamoho Smritir Labdva. So he says, Tvat prasadat maya achyuta, stitosmi gata sandeha karishya vachanam tava. Krishna says, or rather Arjuna says, after hearing Bhagavad Gita in its entirety, Nashto moha smritir labdva. He says that by hearing all these instructions, oh my dear Krishna, Nashta moha, my illusion has gone. I have regained all my spiritual memory. So simply by hearing all these instructions of Krishna, and also how Arjuna approached a very, very difficult situation in his life, we also can take inspiration, and most importantly, we also can progress in our bhakti. So after Yudhishthira Maharaj hears the news of Krishna's departure, as well as Arjuna glorifying Krishna, and also Arjuna remembering about Krishna's instructions, now Yudhishthira Maharaj thinks, okay, now the time has come for him to go back to Godhead. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, until this point, he was still like the caretaker of the entire world, Jambudvipa. So it's not just one world they were ruling, as we were seeing before. There is Saptadvipa in Bhumandala. Taking a step back, there are 14 planetary systems. We live in the 7th planetary system called Bhumandala. Bhumandala is divided into 7 islands called Saptadvipa. Centralmost island is known as Jambudvipa. Jambudvipa in turn is divided into 9 different varshas. Southernmost varsha is known as Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha in turn is divided into 9 partitions known as kandas. Southernmost tip of the Bharatavarsha is known as Bharatakanda, also known as this planet Earth that we live in. Yudhishthira Maharaj was the ruler of entire Jambudvipa, which means the total Jambudvipa would be comprising at least 9 times 9 Earths. So his kingdom was almost the size of 81 times this Earth, or he was ruling 81 Earths, earthly planet. It's not just one planet he was ruling. That's how big the extent of his empire was. And Parishit Maharaj also was ruling the entire Jambudvipa. We saw that in the previous verses. So here, after hearing all this, Yudhishthira Maharaj thinks time has come for him to relieve himself of all the material activities and focus on the full-time devotional service, even though that's what he has been doing. But now whatever reduced activities, the material activities that his mind was engaged in, he want to quit that also. Now, when Arjuna is sharing this news, it's not just Yudhishthira Maharaj who's hearing, his whole family members are hearing, including their wife, Draupadi, including Subhadra Maharani, including Kunti Maharani as well. So when Kunti Maharani heard about Krishna's departure, about her own dear Krishna, we saw the heart-wrenching prayers of Kunti Maharani earlier in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when she hears about this, she focuses her attention exclusively on the lotus feet of Krishna, Ekanta Bhaktya. In this way, she gets liberated. And then Krishna also caused, because when this point comes about Krishna has left, now Kunti Maharani, after hearing this, she's turning her focus inward, Ekanta Bhakti, and she's also getting liberated. Now, Saunakadi rishis who are in Naimisharanya, they are getting worried. Oh, what about all the dependents of Krishna? What happened to all of them? So, simply to pacify them that they are all departing as per the plan of Krishna, Shukadeva Goswami here, he says, Krishna caused the Yadus to relinquish their bodies and to relieve the burden of this world. Before the arrival of Krishna, we'll see that in the 10th canto, at the time, Krishna gives instructions to all of them. When Brahmaji goes to the ocean of milk, telling Krishna, the Supreme Lord, about the unnecessary accumulation of military strength in this world and how Mother Earth is crying due to the burden that she was actually carrying. At the time, Krishna had told Brahma about his immediate arrival, immediate avatar, or immediate descending from the spiritual world. At that time, he had also instructed the demigods to go and take birth in each one of these different families, both in Dwaraka, Mathura, as well as in Vrindavan. So now Krishna's mission has completed. Krishna has gone back. Now the time has come for all the demigods also to go back and resume their duties. So here, Shukadev Goswami, or Sutta Goswami rather, he says that Krishna caused all the Yadus to relinquish their bodies by creating that Leela of Mausala. He has created a situation wherein the demigods can easily quit the body and they can go back and resume their duties. So he said everything is happening as per Krishna's instructions. It's not something which is happening totally out of control, so much so that they need to be worried about, oh, what happened to Krishna's devotees. So Sutta Goswami is assuring all the sages. He gives an example, just like a magician in the stage would create something, and at the end they will also wind up. So same way, Krishna, he is manifesting various bodies, including his own, as if it is material. And then Krishna is quitting and leaving also, and taking other avatars also. So in this way, just like how a magician does his different acts, he'll have different props for that. Similarly, Krishna is also performing his Leela that way. So the day when Krishna left this planet, Kali descended on that day. Until the point Krishna left, Kali couldn't enter. As soon as Krishna left, Dwapara Yuga finishes, Kali Yuga enters. And when Kali Yuga enters, Arjuna could already see. If you remember, one chapter before, in fact, that's how Yudhishthira Maharaj started to reveal his heart to Bhima, that I can see all inauspicious omens. I can see that the wolves are crying. I can see the left part of my body is twitching. I can see, feel as if the Vigraha in the temple are crying. So he's seeing all these inauspicious omens. So Yudhishthir could put 2 plus 2 together. He already has seen it. Now, true to his premonition, he's also getting the confirmation that Krishna has departed, confirming Kali Yuga had indeed arrived. So when Yudhishthir Maharaj understands that Kali Yuga has indeed arrived, now he is immediately trying to wind down his activities and take up the next step, most important step in life, to go back to the spiritual world. So he starts to prepare himself. So now, as a first step, Yudhishthir Maharaj enthrones Parikshit Maharaj and Vajra. Parikshit Maharaj, we all know, is the son of Abhimanyu, the only sole surviving heir apparent of the Pandava dynasty. So he is also the grandson of Pandavas or Arjuna. So he is installing him as the ruler of the whole earth. He is also installing the grandson of Krishna by name Vajra as the king of Mathura. So he entrusted to them. He had already trained them very nicely. Now he is entrusting the responsibilities to them. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj performed a sacrifice known as Prajapatya. This Prajapatya sacrifice he performed in the past. We have seen he performed Rajasuya sacrifice so many times. He performed Ashwamedha sacrifice for certain purpose. Prajapatya sacrifice he performed to quit of any householder responsibilities. So even for that also, Yudhishthir Maharaj performs this sacrifice. So in this way, Yudhishthir Maharaj is finally preparing to retire completely. After doing all this, he then removes all his royal garments, jewelry, everything. And then Prabhupada explains, and this is a very important verse you can read. This is verse 41 and 42. You can read the purport. Prabhupada explains how in material world we are doing so many different activities. Mind is the center of all those activities. In fact, it's the mind that keeps on making plans for material activities, because of which we are constantly running from one place. For example, let us say there's one person who wants to become rich. Mind will do the calculation. Okay, go here, start a business, borrow some money here, expand your business this way, increase the turnover, so on and so forth. Mind is the one that this is making the plan, pushing the body to act, the senses to act. Indriyani paranyahur, indriyabhyo param manaha, manasastu parabuddhi, yobuddhe parasastu sa. Indriyani paranyahur. The senses are considered to be greater than the body. Indriyabhyo param manaha. Greater than the senses is the mind. So it's the mind which dictates the senses and the body. So mind constantly making these plans, pushing the body and the senses to act in a certain way to fulfill its material plans. So here, Yudhishthir Maharaj, so far, because of his kingly duties, he had to always be on the vigil to see, is there any enemy who is looking to attack? Is there anybody who's trying to cause any irreligious activities in his kingdom? So he has to be on the vigil all the time. Yes, he's doing everything as a service of Krishna, but it's still not direct devotional service. It is still connected to Krishna. So now a time has come when, or the time has come when Yudhishthir Maharaj has to give up even anything which is indirectly connected to Krishna and do exclusive direct devotional service to Krishna. So now Prabhupada explains in this purport very beautifully how Yudhishthir Maharaj, he amalgamated his existence, offering his senses to the mind, mind to the life air or breathing, so on and so forth. In other words, Prabhupada explains this complex yogic process, it's simply Krishna consciousness, how simply turning your attention inward and meditating on the instructions and lotus feet of Krishna. In other words, simply chanting Hare Krishna, one can make the best preparation to leave this body. In fact, that's what our central focus of attention of the entire life, the entire devotional life has always been. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Ante Narayana Smriti, we'll be able to remember Krishna all the time, and right at the moment of death, we can still remember Krishna because of that lifelong practice of chanting Hare Krishna, and we can go back to the spiritual world. So here, Yudhishthir Maharaj, after entrusting all his kingly responsibilities, he is now turning his attention totally inwards. And this way, he is preparing himself to go back to the spiritual world. He is wearing torn cloth. He stopped eating, stopped talking even to people. And now, very interestingly, without even telling any of his brothers, without even waiting for his brothers, rather, he just leaves. And the brothers see him leaving. Same Yudhishthir Maharaj, who had been with his brothers through thick and thin all along for 125 years, right from the time of their birth on the Himalayan mountains. That's where all the Pandavas were born. From there until this point, when they went through from, initially they were in Hastinapur, then they went to Indraprastha, then they were driven out of the kingdom. They were roaming in the forest, and then they went to the kingdom of Virat. Then they are back here in Hastinapur, ruling the whole kingdom. Through thick and thin, they have always been together all the time. And now, when the time comes for the most important activity, which is to go back to the spiritual world, the Prabhupada says, at the end of the day, all of us have to fly our own plane. We can be in the association of devotees, but Krishna consciousness is still an individual activity in the group of devotees. So it's like attending a class. Everyone is there. Attending a session is still a collective activity. But then in that collective activity, there is the conglomeration of individual minds. So each one of us, let's say there are 10 students attending a class, it's one single teacher, so they're all in union in terms of listening from the same source, listening or hearing from the same personality. However, each one of them have their own mind, so they process that information, they receive that information, they accept that information to a different degree. So same way, in the association of devotees, we practice bhakti, but each one of us are in that association, we are all in our own personal journey as well. Very important. Sometimes we think association just means physically being with the devotees. That is association on one level. What's more important is association means we come together. Rajam Prabhu says association means we come together and there should be a positive transformation of our heart by the time you depart. Let's say two devotees come together, they talk. After like half an hour or something, or they do some service, or they be in each other's company, and when they are actually going on their own ways, there should be a positive transformation of heart. In other words, they should feel inspired. Converse can also be true. Two devotees can come together, they can talk politics, and rather than uplifting each other, they can pull each other's down. Two devotees can come together, point each other's faults also. That's another problem. So we have to be very careful. Association doesn't mean just hanging out in the physical association. That is okay for a start, but the real meaning of association is how our heart is getting transformed, how much inspiration we are taking, how much deeper we are connecting with Krishna with the help of the other devotee. That's most important. This is what Yudhishthira Maharaj has always been doing. But then when the time comes for departure, we can't lie on the deathbed and say, okay, devotee, Prabhuji or Mataji, we have always been taking each other's association. Now I'm going to quit. Please quit your body with me. We cannot say that. At that point, the journey has to be alone. That's exactly what Yudhishthira Maharaj is doing here. He is been always in the association of great personalities, but now when the time has come, he understands, okay, at this point, I have an individual responsibility. I have to be responsible for myself. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is leading the way. Seeing Kali Yuga, the influence of Kali Yuga, Pandavas, everyone has already observed the influence of Kali Yuga. They have also followed their brother until that point. And now when they see their brother quitting and leaving, they also don't talk to each other. They throw away their royal garments, give up everything. They also follow their brother. So even though Yudhishthira Maharaj goes without waiting for his brothers as true brothers, they also follow him exactly doing what he was doing. And then by pure consciousness, due to constant devotional remembrance, he attained the spiritual sky. In other words, all the Pandavas, they attained to the spiritual sky. After giving up everything, he left his home and proceeded towards the Himalayas. All the Pandavas followed, and by meditating on Lord Govinda, Lord Krishna, they were able to go back to the spiritual world. Vidura, meanwhile, he had gone to the Prabhasha Kshetra, the same place where Krishna brought about the annihilation of all the Yadus. Vidura has also quit his body and he went back to Pitraloka to resume his position. Draupadi and Subhadra Maharani, they become absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Krishna. They also attained the same results as their husbands, meaning they also went back to the spiritual world. Prabhupada writes in the purports that all these personalities, they went to the spiritual world in the same body. There was nothing material that is left in their body. So when they quit the body, they went, or when they didn't even have to quit, rather, when they decided to depart, they just departed in the same body. Their whole body is transcendental, unlike ours. Then this chapter completes with the Falashruti. Falashruti is the phala, or the fruit or the benefit which one gets by reading or hearing about a certain chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This particular chapter, which describes about the retirement of Pandavas, this also has a very beautiful Falashruti. It says this subject of departure of the sons of Pandu is fully auspicious and perfectly pure. Anyone who hears this with faith gains devotion to the Lord. In other words, whoever listens, hears, even better, reads this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, they will gain devotion towards the lotus feet of Sri Radha Gopinath. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week in the following chapter. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai, Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna.